So let's just go back to the kind of the way that they have targeted these demonstrations across US, and the main charge was anti-Semitism. Yeah, what's your take on that? Have you seen any form of anti-Semitism, minuscule or grand, in your own campus, in the encampment that you and other people led in the last few weeks? And do you see this accusation has any reality, or it might be like, I don't know, different quantity, but have you seen any form of anti-Semitism in the protest?
I have seen absolutely no anti-Semitism from the pro-Palestinian voices on campus. I have not seen any form of anti-Semitism from the people I am in contact with from other campuses. We have made it clear consistently that we condemn anti-Semitism alongside any form of racism, because anti-Semitism is a form of racism. And our coalition, which goes by the acronym CML, is the Coalition for Mutual Liberation. And mutual liberation means that we're deeply invested in anti-racist praxis. What becomes a problem for me is this. Let's talk about Cornell specifically. We are being framed as our movement is anti-Semitic and the pro-Palestinian movement is anti-Semitic. 2 weeks ago, Cornell University paid several dozens of thousands of dollars to invite Ann Coulter. Ann Coulter is a right-wing, well-known, well-established anti-Semite white supremacist. So it begs the question, if anti-Semitism is what the school is trying to root out, and they're clamping down on Palestinian voices, pro-Palestinian voices, on the charge of anti-Semitism, why would they bring a speaker who's well-established anti-Semite? What it suggests to me is there's a weaponization of anti-Semitism to silence the pro-Palestinian voices, to repress pro-Palestinian advocacy. And so it's difficult. And I feel probably the most important point about anti-Semitism and the charges, I feel it becomes such a shame that Zionism and the project of Israel has hollowed out the meaning of anti-Semitism, because now everything you like criticizing state policy is becoming anti-Semitic. Saying a chant from the river to the sea is anti-Semitic. And it's a shame that Zionists have come and co-opted and hollowed out the meaning of anti-Semitism. So unfortunately, that has been what has happened on campus. But back to your direct question, no. Like, I would not tolerate any form of anti-Semitism. And we've been clear consistently that we call it out if it was to ever come up.
So we were talking yesterday, and you've been active for a while, and I was on the streets of London for Palestine for more or less all last 24 years, and things are going a bit crazy. This whole like chant from river to the sea being anti-Semitic, but hasn't stopped here. And you told me another chant has got associated with anti-Semitism. What was the one?
Yeah. There is only one solution. Intifada revolution has been. I can show you what one of the vice presidents of the university, and I quote, said, "The movement on campus at the encampment says that they are not anti-Semitic. However, this chant, and I quote, belies that claim." So the university has taken their position that that phrase is unequivocally anti-Semitic, therefore being hate speech.
But one solution revolution, one solution intifada revolution. How can it be anti-Semitic?
Well, they're saying that the term one solution is reminiscent of the final solution in Nazi Germany, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. And why I think that is because I refuse any connection of Europe's crime of anti-Semitism to be placed on the Palestinian struggle. It is Europe's crime of anti-Semitism and not Palestinians that are at fault here. So it's frustrating that, and again, let us foreground and ground ourselves what is actually happening. We're talking about a genocide, upwards of 34,000 people confirmed so far, 14,000 of which are children, several hundred thousands, if not more, displaced, millions displaced, and 100,000 have yet to be discovered. And we're having to manage our words out of the fear someone might perceive it as anti-Semitic. That is what's happening. And that's just points out to the insanity of it all.
So it's unbelievable. I mean, it's like we will have an interview tomorrow, possibly, if not on Wednesday, and we talk about like this whole police repression in Germany. And in Germany is amazing. I was doing the pre-interview, and in Germany they believe that anti-Semitism in Germany is imported by Muslim immigrants because they cleanse themselves from all form of their own anti-Semitism. So whatever new form of anti-Semitism you have is like imported by Syrian, Arab, Turk, and other forms of refugees in the last couple of years in Germany. So okay, let's just take you to other aspects. I mean, I want to know, I mean, have you, because you are like a student of humanities, and I'm sure, I mean, I'm asking you as an analyst, not as a personal person with like personal experience. How do you think they manage to weaponize anti-Semitism? Do you think, I mean, how do they work on it? I mean, have you seen patterns in the last couple of years in United States? And I'm sure you were part of British politics when anti-Semitism was weaponized against Jeremy Corbyn. I mean,
exactly. The thing is, I think so. As an analyst, what the Project of Israel does, being a Zionist movement, it allows Europe to absolve itself of Europe's crimes against the Jewish people. So it becomes the pinnacle of all things bad. So anti-Semitism, so what we realize, there's now a hierarchy, and this is how whiteness operates as well, right? But there's a hierarchy of oppression. And in doing so, we realize there's a hierarchy that this is like anti-Semitism is a form of racism, but it's a form of racism like every other form of racism, like several forms of racism, which are all despicable and should all be condemned. However, what has happened with anti-Semitism claims is that it's used to shut down discussion, debate, and people can say anti-Semitism and then it becomes, the conversation stops. Right. And then when people are saying things like these chants are anti-Semitic, or when people are saying things like a free Palestine movement is anti-Semitic, we're not even allowed to say, okay, so let's talk about this, right? Let's talk about this. But that's it, which I think is a shame, because what has happened as a result is any pro-Palestinian speech, any advocacy for Palestine is now viewed as anti-Semitic, which is used as a form of not talking about Palestine. So when we're talking about freedom of speech, we're not like freedom of speech we can't just say freedom of speech in the abstract. We have to say freedom of speech as it pertains to pro-Palestinian voices. So it's not any speech that's being suppressed and repressed. It is pro-Palestinian speech. However, the claims, and then you saw Netanyahu say that anti-Semitism has run amok on college campuses. I would like to say where, because what I can tell you about Cornell's campus is we had, in the immediacy of October the 7th, a student called Patrick Dye, who was unfamiliar to anybody. He put some statements online on a kind of forum, Greek rank, in which were anti-Semitic and calling for violence against Jewish people. As a result, the school acted decisively. They had the FBI turn to campus. We had the governor of the state turn to campus. We had Kamala Harris's husband turn up to campus, Doug, to reassure the safety of Jewish students. Rightfully so. It was a scary time for them, I'm sure. On the same website, we had deaths calling for Muslims, sexual assault threats at Muslim women who wear hijab. I have been spat out at campus. We've had Muslim women have their hijabs ripped off from Cornell students. So again, it's like, but when we bring this up, the university has been refusing to engage with these things, but has said that the feelings of and the safety of pro-Zionist students is paramount and will be protected at all costs. But we're just saying that this should be spread across the board. But then now what unfortunately happens when it comes to anti-Semitism, everything and anything is now called anti-Semitic as a means of silencing and repressing voices.
So actually, one question which would be interesting was, I mean, do you see like actually the police and the state and university being anti-Semitic because they've been targeting a lot of Jewish anti-Zionist people as well? So
exactly. No, but this is the point, right? This is the point. It's not even. This is where I struggle to understand the claims of anti-Semitism because we have so many anti-Zionist Jewish comrades and friends in our movement, but they're called, by the Zionist students, token Jews. They're called sellouts and but how is that not anti-Semitism? Shouldn't anti-Semitism, which is a form of racism that seeks to homogenize a population? When you seek to homogenize the Jewish population, that is to say all Jewish people must be pro-Zionist or all Jewish students must be in defense of Israel, how is that not a form of racism?
That's very interesting. Actually, that was going to be my next question, because I mean, I'm sure you've been part of like kind of different form of anti-racism kind of movements and activism as well. And this is exactly, I mean, how this thing about Palestine bring all of them together, and this very like really unsmart use of anti-Semitism as a weapon. Yeah. I mean, it would be very easy for people, I mean, at least for a generation which has gone through Black Lives Matter, a generation which is reading a lot of anti-colonial like literature, a generation which is familiar with, like, I don't know, with the question of racism. How do they think that this generation fall for it again? I mean, and are they falling for it? I mean, in the campus at large, do you think any of the kind of people would buy this anti-Semitism as a weapon?
Pro-Zionist students, yes, everyone, again, I don't know how everyone else, I don't want to speak for people, but as for our movement, I'll give you an example. So we had a referendum last week in which we presented the undergrad population two questions. Question 1, should Cornell call for a permanent ceasefire? Question 2, should Cornell divest from weapons manufacturers, 9 of which are American defense contracts weapon manufacturers, and 1 of which is an Israeli company? This was the first referendum in more than 25 years. Historic referendum, historic participation. Over 7,000 students participated. Cornell is a campus of 25,000 people. 7,000 people participated. The referendum won. We won 2-1. 5,000, and the other side, we canvassed, right? The other side who was canvassing said that this referendum is anti-Semitic because it targets Israel, not other places. It makes Jewish students feel unsafe. It's anti-Semitic. 5,100 students said yes to divestment and yes to a ceasefire. Does Cornell University administration really want to say all these people are anti-Semitic? Does that even hold any weight? Does that even make any sense? Of course not. Clearly, we can see that Zionism has nothing to do with Judaism. Zionism is a settler colonial project. Israel is a settler colony. And again, as you quite rightly said, it's like, what do people, now you understand why the right wing is so having a heart attack about decolonial studies and critical race theories and reading Fanon and all these other thinkers, because this is a generation in which Fanon is increasingly becoming a household name for so many people on their political journey. Wretched of the Earth is like a staple in so many young people's lives. What do they expect? They see this as a settler colony. They see this as colonialism. People are reading. Why is it that the lawmakers of this country are now calling for the banning of TikTok? Hey, Greenblatt explicitly said in recording that they're losing the battle because Israel relies on propaganda. Hasbara has been historically strong in propaganda. And this is why Zionism is in crisis. And this is why Israel is in crisis, because the majority of young American Jews don't even support Israel.